Thoughts and comments with me, Diane Campbell, filling in today for Andrew Urquhart. And talking with Nathan Seiuli from Pillar, New Zealand, who is out and about on university campuses, it seems. So, firstly, a big old welcome to the show, Nathan.
Thanks for having me on. Great to be here from University of Auckland.
Wonderful. So, tell me, what are you guys doing at the universities this week?
So this week is Rio Week or Reorientation Week for those who may not be familiar with the term. And it's effectively the start of the second half of the year for students. We were here at the beginning of the year. We met hundreds of students and asked them a couple of simple questions around democracy, civil liberties and freedom. This time we're asking them, are they enrolled to vote? Who are they going to vote for? Or do they know who they're going to vote for? And what issues really matter to them this election cycle? So we're just getting engaged for the younger generation out there. Obviously, they cop a bit of flack from some of the older generations, but it's been quite encouraging to hear in their own words what they think and feel about upcoming elections.
I feel when I talk to people who are younger than me, and it's not hard to do so these days, there is a lot of engagement around this kind of stuff. Is that what you're finding as well?
Yeah, obviously, young people are young, but they are extremely educated comparatively to some of the preceding generations. And they are also really politically involved. Maybe that's a result of the education system being more politicized and culture more politicized in general. But they have thoughts and they have feelings, and they're actually open to listening. I just had a really great chat with a young guy maybe 5 or 10 minutes ago around the most important issue to him, and he talked about fees free. Now, it enabled me to have the conversation around, well, fees free didn't make a difference. Was there a material impact on enrollments and graduations, or was there just a bill left effectively fiscally for us to deal with as taxpayers? And he'd never considered that perspective before. And actually, he said, I'll give him a bit to think about, and he went away. And I think that's what it's all about being here on campus, is getting people to think, engage in discussions they wouldn't usually have, and get them to see a different side of the story.
Yeah, you talk about the different issues that people, that young people are interested in, and you're finding out and you're gauging that through these conversations. So for this young person, it was fees free. What other things are you discovering as you talk with people?
Environmental issues are huge. However, probably run into a bit of a brick wall when we ask which specific environmental policies are close to people's hearts and even which parties seem to be carrying those policies. So there's no trouble necessarily identifying issues that they are passionate about, but knowing which parties best represent a solution or even a plan has been a bit harder to get to the bottom of. As well, cost of living. We just talked to some really amazing students this morning about young people leaving New Zealand for job opportunities. They said to me, hey, we're really lucky. We managed to get jobs in Auckland. I said, actually, you're not lucky. You're hardworking. And that's still, I think, what we're seeing in the workforce. It is a meritocracy once you get out of these four walls of the university. And those who work hard will find work. And those who maybe had a bit more fun, potentially, will have to maybe go abroad and find some other opportunities. But I think the intention of the heart of all students is that they would be able to stay here and find opportunities at home. And I hope that moving forward, we can find some policies from the government that keeps young Kiwis here on our shores.
Are there concerns from them around AI and around, perhaps the job opportunities that may be lost as a result of that?
Definitely. I think that's more industry specific. Lawyers, for example, I'm hearing a lot of young law students expressing concern that a lot of the bulk work or legwork that young lawyers would do in an office can now be done by AI, a lot of research and drafting, things of that nature. Engineers, though, are pretty confident, even though AI is extremely good mathematically and probably could do all sorts of engineering, there still has to be a human element that they are fairly confident in. So it's case by case. Doctors, people doing biomed, people doing the hard sciences, they're fairly confident in job security. And then a lot of the creative roles around the arts and humanities, they're not even thinking about it as far as we've discovered.
Yeah, okay. So you're talking with universities this year, or university students this year. Have you seen a difference in way people dialogue and the way that they're conversing with you? You mentioned that, lots of listening and openness so far.
I think the university gets a hard rap for being a place where conversation can't happen. And I think we have seen that. I think there is definitely elements that are frowned upon when discussed. But individually, student to student, we've found they're extremely open to dialogue. They're extremely open to talking about the issues close to their heart. And actually, they're open to being challenged. We haven't changed every mind, but we've at least had healthy conversations with all of them. We haven't had anyone spit in our face and kick up a fuss and walk away.
Okay.
So I think the young people on campus don't get enough credit for their open-mindedness. Sure, some of these issues can be hard to talk about. I had a really amazing conversation yesterday with a transgender student just around the definitions of a woman's bill. They talked to me for 40 minutes And that was something that I didn't think was possible. But you don't know until you get out here in person and in the flesh and you experience what these students are open to talking about and they're open to being challenged on. So it's eye-opening for us as a team. It's also encouraging and it instills in us a sense of hope for the future. I know it can be easy to be quite fatalist and think, oh, these young guys, what are we going to do to the next generation? And they're horrible. But actually, they're just young and they just need us to come alongside them and talk to them. And I've learned just as much as I think I've imparted. So come down and have a look for yourself if you're out there and cynical about universities. It's probably going to, meet some of your expectations, but it might exceed some of them as well.
I'm wondering too, the way that you're talking, it's potentially the way that you broach some of these issues, right? And I'm just wondering, how do you engage with someone, particularly around some of these challenging topics? Because I think for a lot of people, myself included, we'd prefer just not to go there at all. But I think, as you've expressed, it's actually really important to have this dialogue, and actually these young people are keen to do it. So how do you go about it? Because clearly you are having long conversations about difficult subjects.
Yeah, I think heading into a conversation to win isn't going to set you off on the right track. Heading in to learn and maybe to inform and to share is probably where I like to start. Asking questions around what they believe, why they believe those things, understanding where they're coming from. Perspective is huge, and understanding why someone might believe something, whether that be something that's happened in their past or a piece of information they've received, that often sets me up in the way that I handle the conversation. But as long as you're respectful, as long as you're honest as well. For example, I mentioned I had a transgender student talk to me, and I was very upfront. I said, hey, look, I actually disagree with you. I don't think that this is actually something that can happen where you change your biological sex. I said that right at the start. I said, and respectfully, I want you to be able to live the life that you want to live, but can you help me understand more why or how you've chosen to go about this? They immediately were open. They didn't take that as me insulting them because I was honest. I was upfront. I let them know where we stood. I let them know that our points of reference or even our shared upon terms might not be 100% aligned, but at least we knew that from the outset so that we weren't talking past each other or around each other or being confused. So I was respectful, I was honest, I was open, and then they in turn returned the same favor. They were open, respectful, and honest. And after 40 minutes, we shook hands, we walked away. They even emailed us. I responded to them this morning. They said, thank you for the conversation. So I think we can have conversations with people who have vastly different lifestyles to us, vastly different beliefs to us. And it's not always about winning. I may have sowed a seed there that will come back in the future and that person might think of that conversation. But hopefully I've set up in their mind that conversation isn't scary, it's not hateful or harmful, but it's actually essential to being part of a community and living in a nation that thrives.
I think you've just made such an important point there, Nathan. It is essential, and I feel like for so many of us, we'd prefer to avoid or skirt around the conversation, and that well and truly does create confusion, which is not helpful for anyone. So your work at Pillar, clearly you do some very diverse and interesting things in this role. If people do want to find out more about the work you do, can you tell us a little bit more about it and where people can head?
Yeah. So this is one of our work streams that we call Strengthen Community Work Effectively. We get out in the community. We do 4 key things. We shift, that's legislative work. We stand, that's our legal advocacy. We speak, which is what I'm doing right now, sort of our commentary and some of these interview things. And then we strengthen, we get in the community. And if you want to see all the work that we do, we're on every social platform at pillar_NZ. We've got a website, nzpillar.com. We'd love to hear from you, get your feedback, get your thoughts and perspective, and just engage us and see what we're up to.
Nathan, thank you so much for being on the show. Really loving the work that you guys are doing there in our universities. Thanks again.
No, thank you.